It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noah Layden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noah
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5 o'clock. Good morning. It is Friday, January 24th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sunshine today. It's going to feel like downright warm. The high is going to be 32. Saturday, the weekend, it looks like this. Sun and clouds, high 31. And then Sunday, ready for this? Shorts weather. Cloudy, high 41. If you are walking out the door with us right now, it is 19 and clear in Northport out on Long Island. It's 17 and clear in Elizabeth over in New Jersey. And it is 22 and clear right outside our Midtown studios. Boy, we got a lot to get to as we work our way up. 6 o'clock hour, Sid and Friends in the morning. We've been watching images of illegal migrants being arrested across the country after ICE has started carrying out these raids in a bunch of cities across the country. The borders are. Tom Homan says more than 460 illegal immigrants wanted for criminal offenses arrested since President Trump took office on Monday. Lots of people, of course, weighing in as they're watching this all play out.
I'm not disappointed that they round up people that are here illegally who are criminals. But I don't believe they should round up a 33-year-old mother with 4 kids who's trying to make her life better. I don't think that's what ICE is going after. At least I hope they're not.
Yeah, so there's a lot of debate about this, of course, as we watch this all happen. Holman has said the worst will be the first, saying among those arrested were alleged MS-13 gang members, along with suspected rapists, murderers. Arrests were made across the U.S., including Maryland, California, Illinois, New York and New Jersey. And one of them was in Newark, New Jersey. Some questions about some ICE agents who raided a Newark seafood business. This happened yesterday.
Luis Janota, the owner of Ocean Seafood Depot in the Ironbound section of Newark, says ICE agents drove up in unmarked cars, entered, and without showing a warrant, demanded documentation, then detained 8 people, including 4 women and a U.S. military veteran. He told Pix 11 News the agents told him they had a complaint and didn't ask him or his American, Portuguese, or white workers for ID. Fox 5 reports the women, all mothers, showed ID, were fingerprinted, and ordered to court next month. The veteran was released, the other 3 men detained. An outraged Mayor Ras Baraka says he'll share more with the press Friday amid reports of other ICE raids in the city. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New Jersey.
You will be shocked to hear there's been a lot of pushback to this, and other cities are pushing back the other way. So let's start in Northern California. Local leaders there uniting to support immigrant families against these potential deportations from the White House.
We are well prepared. We are not scared. We will protect our immigrant families and thrive no matter who is president.
United Council CEO Chris Iglesias there. They were holding a press conference yesterday in California, say the state Senate going to allocate $50 million to help combat Trump's recent executive orders, which they view as unconstitutional.
Immigrants are the backbone of our state's economy. Immigrants pay $8.5 billion in state and local taxes and are really the lifeblood of our state's economy. There will be a spotlight in California because of who we are.
So state lawmakers in California proposing this legislation. It would make hospitals, healthcare facilities, safe zones, protecting them from immigration raids. Another Southern California city is getting rid of their sanctuary city status. So you're getting it both ways here. You might have seen earlier this week the city of Huntington Beach unanimously approved a resolution that declares themselves a non-sanctuary city. Now in San Diego County, the city of El Cajon is hoping to do the very same thing. Here's the mayor there. His name's Bill Wells.
State law says that if a police officer does his duty that we're asking him to do by complying with the federal government, that police officer can be charged with a felony and lose his pension.
Yes, so we'll see what happens in El Cajon. They've delayed their vote this week on a resolution that would revoke their sanctuary city. And a federal judge in Seattle issuing a temporary restraining order that prevents President Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship from taking place. Washington Attorney General Nick Brown led 3 states in this lawsuit. He says the 14th Amendment to the Constitution was meant to reverse The Dred Scott decision by the Supreme Court that upheld slavery and denied citizenship to black people.
It was put into effect to reaffirm what it means to be an American. And so that's why this case was so important.
All these states trying to find a way around this. Oregon, Arizona, Illinois joining Washington in filing the lawsuit. The judge ruled the lawsuit would likely prevail. Washington Attorney General Brown says the executive order needed to be quickly stopped.
Created a cloud of uncertainty for children being born here and in Seattle, all across Washington, and all across the country. No one individual, not even the President of the United States, can simply erase that amended the United States Constitution. They could certainly take that action.
Now, all refugee flights into the U.S., they've come to a halt after President Trump suspended the State Department's refugee program. Advocacy groups say this leaves thousands of Afghan refugees at risk, including many who had already been vetted by the U.S.
We handed them our weapons, and we said, hey, will you fight alongside us? And they sure did.
That's Sean Van Diver, who's president of Afghan Evac. That's a group created to assist Afghan nationals who help the U.S. and their families get out of now that the Taliban is back in power. After the refugees who are already en route to the U.S. now stuck in limbo with the pause set to be in place for at least 90 days. And this gentleman, Sean Van Diver, who's head of Afghan Evac, is really angry about it.
But 90 days is 90 days that people could be hunted down and killed. It's 90 days of arrivals that aren't happening. It's 90 days of families not being reunified.
So he's appealing to politicians to see if they'll stick to their word to help these Afghan immigrants get out.
We're confused, right? We thought that President Trump stood with Afghans. You know, at the RNC, they talked about it every day.
And Mexico now constructing tent shelters on their side of the border to prepare for potential mass deportations.
These shelters will provide temporary housing and support for deported individuals. Multiple reports say President Trump is getting ready to send 10,000 troops to the U.S. southern border. An internal government memo reportedly says the troops will help Border Patrol agents to shut off access to asylum in the U.S. and will use Department of Defense bases to hold migrants awaiting deportation. I'm John Fink.
WABC News Time 5:08. Let's get on to Washington, where President Trump was signing off on all kinds of executive orders this week, backing the death penalty. He ordered the Attorney General in future cases to take steps to make sure that states like Texas have enough lethal injection drugs to carry out those executions.
Historically, the drug companies have not provided the states with the so-called cocktail needed to execute a person. They think it's inhumane.
That's Josh Blackman at the South Texas College of Law. He says another part of the executive order is being overlooked. Trump says he's ordered the Justice Department to challenge the Supreme Court precedents on death penalty. That includes the Eighth Amendment ban on cruel and unusual punishment.
So the states have had to sort of experiment and mix their own drugs, and it's created some complications with actually performing the executions. I think this will make it less likely there are delays in execution. Also, the less likely there will be any complications.
Yeah. President Trump yesterday talking about the inflation crisis. He says it's the worst in modern history. He was addressing the World Economic Forum virtually as it took place in Davos, Switzerland.
The entire planet will be more peaceful and prosperous as a result of this incredible momentum and what we're doing and going to do.
It was Trump's first major speech to global economic leaders since he took over the presidency on Monday. Trump placed the blame for rising prices on former President Trump.
The result
Biden,
is the worst inflation crisis in modern history and sky-high interest rates for our citizens and even throughout the world.
And he told these world leaders what he's done so far since Monday.
I imposed a federal hiring freeze, a federal regulation freeze, a foreign aid freeze, and I created the new Department of Government Efficiency.
And he also urged businesses to begin producing their products here in the U.S. President Trump says the Biden administration set the country back, and he has a lot of work to get it back to where it once was. 5:10, House Republicans have passed what they call a Born Alive abortion bill.
The bill requires doctors to provide the same degree of care if a child is born alive during an attempted abortion as they would a normal childbirth. While Republicans frame the bill as not being anti-abortion but anti-infanticide, it's been largely criticized for its redundancy. Although a rare occurrence, it's already illegal for doctors to allow infants to die if they're born alive during an abortion attempt. I'm Brian Shook.
Nearly 24 House Republicans backing a bill that would repeal the FACE Act, which makes it a federal crime to block the entrances to clinics that offer reproductive health care services. Texas Congressman Chip Roy says it was weaponized by the Biden administration.
Disproportionately targeting pro-life Americans while simultaneously failing to protect pregnancy resource facilities.
And Roy says a repeal is not enough. He wants the Trump administration to pardon pro-life activists who were arrested over the last 4 years.
Unequal application of the law is not truly law. It is tyranny imposed on those who didn't have the power by those who do have it.
10 defendants received prison sentences. They range from 10 months to 57 months for taking part in a 2020 blockade of an abortion clinic in Washington, D.C. Chip Roy says the legislation would help those people out, and the president should pardon those people as he's pardoned the January 6 rioters. 512, the 10,000-plus acre Hughes fire burning in the hills near Castic Lake north of Los Angeles just gotten bigger. Frightening sight for commuters who use Interstate 5, which just drives right through the area.
It looked like you were driving into hell, honestly. Black cloud above and fire, red fire coming up from below.
30,000 people have under a mandatory evacuation order. Others are told to be ready to leave the area. This woman was commuting on Interstate 5 and says the fire looks ominous.
It was pretty terrifying, to be honest with you. I feel for the people that are in that area.
Yeah, what a time they were going through there. As of yesterday, that fire was just 14% contained. And as that goes on, there is another recall effort against California Governor Gavin Newsom.
That fire has ignited a political firestorm against one really crappy politician in Gavin Newsom.
That's a spokesperson for the group called Saving California, announced their intent to serve Newsom with official recall papers.
He is consumed with Donald Trump instead of being consumed with the people of California.
And he says Newsom needs to focus more on California, the Sunshine State. Or is California the Sunshine State?
We need to recall Newsom. We need to send a strong message that he should never even think twice about running for president.
The group says they've had it with the mismanagement of the state. Newsom has survived 8 previous recall attempts. I didn't realize there was that many. 513, down to Louisiana. A Louisiana law that mandates the 10 Commandments be posted in public schools is up for debate before the most conservative federal appeals court in the nation. It's being challenged by a group of parents.
They believe it's their job to teach their children about the 10 Commandments, not the job of the state.
That's attorney Jonathan Youngwood, who says the state mandate tramples on religious liberty, erodes the separation of church and state. But attorneys for the state arguing that the law is plainly constitutional.
In a proper place in church is wonderful, but in a public school classroom, it is a violation of the First Amendment.
The attorney for this family, Youngwood, is suing to stop the law.
Our collective plaintiffs come from all different faiths, and they are all united in the concern that their children will be coerced.
No matter how the Fifth Circuit rules, it's expected that the case will eventually make its way to the Supreme Court. 514, California Attorney General Rob Bonta announcing a nearly $7.5 billion settlement with the Sackler family, former owners of Purdue Pharma, in connection to the opioid crisis that has led to widespread addiction and overdose deaths.
Today we're making it clear DOJ isn't afraid to take on corporate giants that put profits over the health and lives of Californians.
The settlement will end the Sacklers' control of Purdue. It'll prevent them from selling opioids in the U.S. The funds will be used over the next 15 years to support addiction treatment, prevention, and recovery programs in affected communities.
This will be followed by $500 million after 1 year, an additional $500 million after 2 years, and $400 million after 3 years.
Now, if approved by a bankruptcy court, the initial payouts will see the Sacklers contributing $1.5 billion and Purdue nearly $900 million after the plan is confirmed. The California Attorney General laying out how this payment process will go.
This will be followed by $500 million after 1 year, an additional $500 million after 2 years, and $400 million after 3 years.
Yeah, so under the terms of the settlement, the Sacklers would not be protected from future litigation as they previously requested. 516, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Happy Friday. Good morning, Justin Elliott.
Happy Friday. Good morning to you, Noah Mullet, and we will begin with a look ahead to Conference Championship weekend in the NFL. with a trip to New Orleans and the Super Bowl on the line. The NFC, or the NFC East, for that matter, will lead things off Sunday afternoon at 3 p.m. when the Philadelphia Eagles will welcome in the Washington Redskins as 6-point favorites. And then at 6:30 in Kansas City, the two-time defending champion Chiefs will host the Buffalo Bills as 2-point favorites there. Obviously, the winner of each game with a trip to the Super Bowl.
And, of course, Mayor Parker will be leading the cheer.
Let me hear you all say, E-L-G-S-E-S, Eagles!
All right. Yeah, she'll be there.
Let's go, Birds!
Yeah, let's go, Birds.
Yeah, no, they're actually keeping her, like, right outside city limits, no in some, like, basement shackled up somewhere. They're not letting her out, okay, until the game is over. Because if she does that again, it's terrible for the Juju.
Could be a jinx. Could be a jinx for the Eagles. Yeah.
Exactly. So just, keep her out of plain sight. That's all I'm asking. Also out of the NFL, Buccaneers offensive coordinator Liam Cohen told the team last night that he was leaving to become coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. The decision capped a 2-day saga in which Cohen pulled himself from consideration for the Jags job, then agreed to a contract extension with the Bucs that would have made him the NFL's highest paid coordinator. And then he changed his mind after Jacksonville reached out to ask him to reconsider after parted ways with general manager Trent Baalke on Wednesday afternoon. To the NHL on the ice at the Garden, where defenseman Keandre Miller had a goal and an assist, and Igor Shesterkin made 33 saves as the surging Rangers routed the Philadelphia Flyers 6-1. Schneider, Edstrom, Hedel, Fox, and Smith also scored for the Rangers, who are 8-1-3 since January 2nd. New York won only 3 times in December. Shesterkin is 6-0-1 in his last 7 starts, allowing 2 or fewer goals in 5 of those. All 6 Rangers defensemen registered points. Up next for the Rangers, they'll host Colorado on Sunday. Looking ahead to local NHL action tonight, the Islanders will get a swing at the aforementioned Flyers, getting set to welcome in Philly for a 7:30 p.m. puck drop. That is your Sports Know, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:20. President Trump's pick for Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, has advanced through the Senate confirmation.
The Senate voted largely along party lines Thursday to advance Hegseth with a final vote of 51-49. Republican Senators Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins voted against him, with Murkowski saying she cannot in good conscience support his nomination. She added past behavior that Hegseth has admitted to, including infidelity on multiple occasions, demonstrate a lack of judgment. Hegseth has faced allegations of sexual assault and excessive drinking. The Senate advanced Hegseth's nomination on Thursday, setting up his confirmation vote on the floor Friday. I'm Mark Mayfield.
A search is on in Connecticut today after the bodies of 3-day-old puppies were found frozen in plastic bags.
Bridgeport Animal Control found the 3 newborn pups in 2 bags at Newfield Avenue and Orange Street Wednesday afternoon. They say the puppies appeared to be 1 to 5 days old. Bridgeport police say necropsies have been performed, though they didn't share the results. They're asking anyone with information to come forward. The group Desmond's Army Animal Advocates is offering a $5,500 reward for information, leading to the arrest and prosecution of the puppy killer. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, Connecticut.
College enrollment numbers are up higher than before the pandemic.
According to a National Student Clearinghouse Research Center report, total enrollment last fall was up 4.5% from the year before. That's nearly 0.5% higher than in 2019. Undergraduate certificate programs saw some of the biggest increases, with an over 28% increase in enrollment from 2019 levels. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
5:21 down to Florida. NASA observing its annual Day of Remembrance yesterday, honoring those who lost their lives in pursuit of space exploration. The annual event is held in the month that we lost the crews of the Apollo 1 and the Shuttle Challenger.
NASA has been at the forefront of space exploration for nearly 7 decades, unlocking the mysteries of the universe for the benefit of all humanity, and those who write history can proudly herald the success of our accomplishments today.
Kennedy Space Center Acting Director Kelvin Manning asked the NASA family to keep the memory of those lost close and to honor the sacrifice by committing to safety and excellence in future missions.
As we embark on new bold ventures, we must keep the memories of these losses near us. We must honor their sacrifice by fortifying our commitment to safety and excellence as new generations of space explorers follow their footsteps.
And it was kind of nice to watch this yesterday. He gave this heartfelt tribute to those who were lost in those 2 missions.
We owe a debt of gratitude to the crews of Apollo 1, Challenger, Columbia, and to all the others who have lost their lives in the advancement of science and exploration.
Kennedy Space Acting Director there, Kelvin Manning. If you've never been, by the way, to get a tour of the Kennedy Space Center down in Florida, I highly recommend it. It's really fascinating. A new study shows those with ADHD have a shorter life expectancy. Oh, that's not good for me. All right, now what was I doing now? What was I just talking about?
Research published by Cambridge University Press found that men with ADHD were likely to live 7 years less than those without ADHD. For women, it was likely to shorten their lifespan by 8 years. The study's authors wrote that the evidence is extremely concerning and highlights unmet support needs that require urgent attention. I'm Lisa Taylor.
WABC News Time 5:23. I did the story with Frank Morano a little earlier this morning. Spirit Airlines. Have you taken Spirit Airlines? The flights tend to be a good deal cheaper than getting on another flight, but then you have to experience all kinds of things when you do get on a Spirit's airline flight. So that's why now they've changed the rules for passengers who get on board about what they can wear and what kind of tattoos they can show off.
Spirit updated its contract of carriage Wednesday, saying passengers will not be allowed to board or will be asked to leave if they have body art that's lewd, obscene, or offensive in nature. That also applies to passengers who are inadequately clothed, which is defined as see-through clothing not adequately covered, exposed breasts, buttocks, or other private parts. The budget airline has previously banned barefoot passengers or offensive clothing. I'm Brian Schuh.
I mean, really, can you imagine getting on the airplane barefoot? I mean, that's apparently a problem. People are getting on these flights barefoot, showing off obscene tattoos, showing a little too much skin. And the fact that they have to institute their own clothing policy, their own dress policy, is really sort of unbelievable. But it began this week, and they said they kicked off people off the flight who did not follow this new policy. I think they got their money back, but they weren't allowed to fly Spirit Airlines. Meanwhile, travelers can now use Venmo to book flights on JetBlue Airways.
The company announced that it's the first airline to accept payment via Venmo when buying flights directly on the carrier's website. The new feature is expected to roll out soon on the airline's mobile app. JetBlue says it's part of its goal of using digital technology to simplify and customize people's travel journey. I'm Matt Mattinson.
Oreo is partnering with Post Malone for a new limited edition cookie. It'll be a mixed salted caramel and shortbread flavor cream between a chocolate cookie and a golden cookie. That sounds pretty good. They'll be stamped with 9 designs inspired by the singer, including vinyl records and a guitar pick. It'll go on sale February 3rd across the country. iPhones with TikTok installed are now listed for thousands of dollars on eBay.
After a brief ban in the U.S., those who deleted or never downloaded TikTok have been left in the dark since it's not available on Apple and Google app stores in the U.S. Some iPhone owners who've kept TikTok downloaded are now selling their used or brand new phones. One eBay user in Florida listed an iPhone 15 Pro Max with TikTok for $10,000, her best offer. Other phones with TikTok installed are listed between $500 and $25,000. I'm Michael Kastner.
I get this type of feel you ain't accustomed to.
Kendrick Lamar bringing SZA out for the Super Bowl halftime show. He announced yesterday that SZA will join him on stage as a guest performer. Super Bowl 59 takes place, of course, at the Superdome in New Orleans on February 9th. This comes as Kendrick and SZA gear up for their upcoming Grand National Tour, which will kick off in April.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam.
On 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5:33. Good morning. It is Friday, January 24th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sunshine today. We may even get above freezing. The high around 33. Saturday, sun and clouds, high 31. And the nicest day of the weekend, it'll be cloudy, but the high on Sunday will be 41 degrees. If you are walking out the door with us right now, it's 19 and clear in Northport out on Long Island. It's 17 and clear in Elizabeth over in New Jersey, and it's 22 and clear right outside our Midtown studios. We'll start this half hour right here in the city and in Newark. Reports of ICE detaining migrants have rattled cities like Newark, New Jersey, where the mayor there is revealing that agents carried out a raid at a business yesterday. The federal raid was at the Ocean Seafood Depot in Newark's Ironbound section, and apparently it caught its owner by surprise. He told Eyewitness News that agents asked for documentation for 3 workers there and then took them into custody when they could not provide it.
I feel that we have to be a country with law, but go after bad people, not working people. These are family people. These are people that show up to work every day.
There's no word yet from ICE or Homeland Security as to why these individuals were detained, but the move has infuriated local officials. Newark Mayor Ras Baraka says one of them is a veteran, and he says he suffered the indignity of having the legitimacy of his military documentation questioned. He insists there was no warrant for the arrest. A local lawyer says that ICE, if they want to arrest people and go into private businesses, they have to show up with a warrant before they do so.
Can't go into private locations without a warrant that's been approved by a judge. So when the mayor says that this locations can't go into private locations without a warrant that's been approved by a judge. So when the mayor says that this was without a warrant, that is a serious concern.
Mayor Baraka says he'll have more to say about it at a press conference a little bit later this morning. Thursday's raid in Newark comes as federal law enforcement ICE agents have arrested over 500 undocumented migrants wanted for outstanding crimes in sanctuary cities, including here in New York. So what we're being told here in New York, ICE agents arrested an alleged also Salvadorian MS-13 gang member, a Jamaican citizen who had been arrested for sexual exploitation of a minor, and a Honduran citizen with a drunk driving conviction. There were similar scenes in cities across the country. Here's New York City Council President Adrienne Adams responding to this all.
We're in a wait-and-see mode. I mean, we don't know, how broad this is going to impact our folks.
Council Speaker says she has not seen any plan to deal with mass deportation. She believes the mayor should be more rigorous in his defense of the city's immigrant population. More conservative members of the city council, including Robert Holden and Vicky Palladino, says they're glad that the people they took off the streets yesterday were taken off the streets.
I don't think they're going to just start deporting anybody. They're going to focus on the criminals. Who would be against that?
This is not mass deportation of good people. This is mass deportation, worst of the worst.
Now, here in New York, there are more than 400,000 undocumented migrants. And as President Trump begins to roll out plans for these mass deportations, an internal memo from the NYPD, the Commissioner Jessica Tisch, tells officers to avoid taking part in immigration enforcement. The memo reportedly reminds cops that New York City laws ban local police departments from working with federal immigration authorities.
All agencies to get together and do what's best for the American people, the people of the city, and the people of the state, people of the country.
I'm against this immigration thing, so... I mean, it's a mess in the city. So, it's the law of the land. It's the federal government. You got to work with them.
Yeah, those are some New Yorkers who are responding to this. A lot of people saying, no, the NYPD should work with ICE agents.
I think he's being too hard on humanity, but it's not a surprise.
Sadly, I think he's being really harsh because the last 15 years, nobody has. This is a problem that could have been nipped in the bud a long time ago.
Trump got to appease the people who voted for him, so I personally don't think he's being too hard.
WABC News Time 539. As part of the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas, the names of 4 hostages are expected to be revealed today ahead of their release this weekend. 3 hostages, of course, returned home last weekend after hundreds of days in captivity in Gaza. But at the ceasefire's glacial pace, so many more families are still waiting to find out when their loved ones are coming home. Emily Damari, she was one of the hostages released last week, and her mother says she feels for the other families.
Please keep on fighting for the remaining 94 hostages who need to come home. There are too many other families who are waiting to hug their loved ones or bring them back for a proper burial.
Now, there are a number of Americans who are still being held, others who have died while in captivity. Long Island native Omer Nutra and Itai Ken, who's from Brooklyn. Their families are just waiting to get the bodies of their loved ones back. They were told that they were killed back on October 7th. Their parents have waited all this time. They just want to be able to bury their kids.
For us, that hope to reunite with Omer alive was lost. And it's very painful, but we still owe it to him to go through with this whole thing, bring him back and bring back all of the hostages. That's what he would have wanted.
So the names of the next 4 to be released, we should know them just in hours. So the Americans, there's Sagai Dekel Chen, he's from Connecticut, and Keith Siegel, who's from North Carolina. The thought is maybe they'll be among this next group. They are the only Americans on the list of this first 33 that have been negotiated. The 33 hostages are being released by Hamas in return for nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners being held in Israeli jails. In 2 weeks, both parties will begin negotiating over the next group of hostages as the world waits to see if this ceasefire holds. Thank God so far it has. 5:41, let's bring it back from Israel, go to the Upper West Side of Manhattan, where a beloved grocery store has officially closed its doors after several health violations were uncovered. It was actually more than several. Barzini's. Have you ever heard of Barzini's? I remember going to Barzini's. The store packed still with all kinds of food as they figure out what to do. State inspectors say inside the store's walk-in cooler, they found a baby rat and nesting material right next to the broccoli rabe and prosciutto. Well, that's nice. The inspectors say that rodents were having a feast on sausage, cold cuts, and cheese. There's cheese in the store that had gnaw marks on it from rats. So lots of people, of course, in the neighborhood who've been going to Barzini's for years were pretty shocked to hear all this.
It was a long time coming.
As far as I'm concerned, the only thing that'll correct this is a total gut of the basement and the first floor.
Inspectors also discovered a mold-like residue and pasta infested with grain beetles and other four-legged critters. Can you imagine people have been eating this stuff? So damn nasty.
I had a rule that I would only buy things that were dated by the manufacturer.
Yeah, so some people clearly knew something was going on with the store. Why they continued to shop there is beyond me. Officials say they found food expiration dates in the store with marked the year 2018 were still up for sale. A crew did show up yesterday to put down rat traps in the store, with one worker saying that they put down 10 on Thursday, and they put in more yesterday. Here's a guy who had been shopping at Barzini's for a while, and he said he always liked the cheese there. He said the cheese was delicious.
I think it's a shame because they have some very nice stuff in there. Cheeses especially.
Yeah, well, you might want to stay from the cheese and Barzini's at least for a little while till they clean up the mess there. 5:43, a new study finds those who responded to the World Trade Center attacks on 9/11 may be at a higher risk for early onset dementia. Researchers at Stony Brook Medicine say they discovered a link between exposure at ground zero and the presence of an amyloid in the brain. Amyloid is a protein in the body that can form sort of abnormal deposits, which then can build up. And it's associated with numerous diseases such as Alzheimer's. Here's the scientist that's worked on this study, and you say, boy, these people, have they gone through enough with all the different kinds of cancers the 9/11 responders are coming down with? And now it could be Alzheimer's, too.
We're tracking this immune target, this immune protein. We found it in the brain, and it's worse in people who are more severely exposed. We found that it was associated with cognitive function. So the individuals who had more amyloid, especially in some regions of the brain that we've previously linked to cognition, the amyloid in those areas was associated with cognition.
Okay, I didn't understand all of that, but none of it sounds good. 35 World Trade Center responders took part in this study over the course of 3 years. It's published online in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease. It was funded in part by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. 5:45. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk with the guy who can't wait for Sunday, Justin Eller.
I cannot wait. You got that right. Noam Layden, it might not seem it, but I am having a functional days-long anxiety attack, by the way.
What's that about?
Well, I just don't know what's going to happen on Sunday. I'm very worried about it.
Nobody's predicting the command. I mean, I want the Commanders to win, but nobody's predicting it.
Stop.
There's not a soul that's saying the Commanders are going to win.
Stop. This is a conference championship game. We're not selling anybody short. We're not doing that.
Okay.
Give respect where it's due.
Yeah.
The Redskins, they deserve to be there.
Wow, look at you calling them the Redskins. That's very rebellious of you.
I mean, come on now. That's what they are.
They are the Commanders.
Yeah, come on now. Please. Come on. We'll look ahead to these conference championship games this weekend. The aforementioned Commanders/Redskins, whatever you want to call them, they will be at 3 p.m. this weekend in Philadelphia against the Eagles. That's the NFC Championship game for a shot to go to the Super Bowl in New Orleans. And on Sunday at 6:30, this is really the big one of the day. In Kansas City, the two-time defending champion Chiefs will host the Buffalo Bills as 2-point favorites there. Most of America just praying and hoping that the Bills can somehow get the Chiefs out of this mess here. Also,
do they still sing "Hail to the Commanders" as opposed to the Redskins?
No, actually.
Oh, they got rid of that fight song? That's such a great fight song.
So why is that a great fight song? But then yesterday I had to spend all day hearing how cheesy and gross and disgusting the Eagles fight song was.
Let me hear you all say,
oh, goodness gracious.
E-L-P-S, Eagles!
Yes, there's your mayor of Philadelphia.
Let's go, Birds!
Yeah, that's the guy, the person you want supporting your team.
Not my mayor.
Genius.
That's not my mayor. We'll go. Also out of the NFL here, Buccaneers offensive coordinator Liam Cohen told the team last night that he was leaving to become head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. To the ice and the NHL at the Garden, defenseman Keandre Miller had a goal and an assist. Igor Shesterkin made 33 saves as the surging Rangers routed the Philadelphia Flyers 6-1. Up next for them, they'll host Colorado on Sunday. Looking ahead to local NHL action tonight, the Islanders will get a swing at the aforementioned Flyers, getting set to welcome in Philly for a 7:30 p.m. puck drop. That is your Sports Know, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:49. There was a thought a casino might open on Coney Island, but apparently not going to happen.
Well, you can put your lucky rabbit's foot away. Community Board 13 in Brooklyn is voting against a Coney Island casino.
My students are New Yorkers who deserve to grow up with Coney Island, not Casino Island. We have a historic destination here. We have loving, diverse communities here. We have homes, careers, lives here.
24 board members voted against the plan to build a 500-room hotel and casino in the area, with only 11 members voting in favor. I'm Lisa Ritchie for 77 WABC News.
Kept hearing about this story up in the Poconos. So many people in this area have second homes, or they live in the Poconos, and they listen to us about a bear attacking a person. And now we got definite information about this. Apparently, this took place on Sunday. A black bear, a guy comes out of his home, and a black bear just attacks him out of nowhere. I mean, he didn't even see the bear before he was attacked. And somebody who was in their home who heard him crying for help raced out with his gun and killed the bear and likely saved this guy's life.
I think, number one, she was scared because she was just down at the...
Now, he's talking about the bear here. He says he shot the bear, but he says the reason the bear attacked this poor guy was he was probably looking for food.
I think, number one, she was scared because she was just down at the market trying to get into the market because they're hungry. They're starving. They're supposed to be in hibernation. This weather is weird.
Yeah, so when they took this bear in after it was shot, they found out that the bear has rabies. Now, I don't know what that means for the individual attacked, but we're told that he is okay, so that's the good news. A 12-year-old boy recovering in Connecticut, in Hartford. So he was out throwing snowballs at cars. I mean, we all did that once in our life, right? Or maybe more than once. But this guy, this kid, he's throwing snowballs at a car, and the guy pulls over, and then he shoots the kid.
Hartford police say it happened early Wednesday night about 7 blocks west of the Connecticut state capitol. The 12-year-old boy was playing in the snow with an 11-year-old and throwing snowballs at cars. They say one car they hit circled the block, chased them down, and someone inside opened fire. Police say the boy was shot more than once, but is expected to survive. No arrests. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, Connecticut.
City taxi drivers really upset about this latest attack. Michael Shalanchik was in the back of his livery cab this week. This was Tuesday evening. 2 men opened the doors to this livery cab. They yanked the chain off his neck. They beat him, and then he suffered some sort of medical episode and passed away. And so now these city taxi drivers are saying, hey, you got to do more to protect us. The TLC's got to spend more money on security. Here's Fernando Mateo. He's head of the New York State Federation of Taxi Drivers.
If a driver locks his doors, it's considered unlawful imprisonment.
Yeah, so now there is some sort of rule about locking doors that you can't do that, but he says those doors had been locked on this livery cab. Michael Shalanchik would be live today.
And you're in a car. If you want to get out, you can get out, but you shouldn't have to ask for permission to secure the precious cargo that you have in your vehicle.
5:52, drones. Drones could be put on garbage duty in the near future here in New York City.
New York City's sanitation department is thinking about ways to use technology to their advantage. The New York Post reports that the department is still in the idea stages, but they are thinking about ways to use drones to help with enforcement and inspections. Regulations began in November, forcing locals to put out their trash into a container versus in bags on the street. The drones could be used monitoring for illegal dumping or for people who put out their trash earlier than allowed. This is in addition to the network of over 200 surveillance cameras used by city sanitation. I'm Liz Radabali for 77 WABC News.
Now, it has been a really frigid week, and lots of ponds and smaller lakes have frozen over. And what's happened is people go out on them and then they fall through because they're not as strong as you might think. In fact, there was a couple rescues that took place this week. Somebody slipping through the ice on a lake in Central Park. There was another rescue at a park in Queens. So the New York City Parks Department issuing another warning saying, just stay off the ice.
There are times where it's a little deeper and then someone may step on it and there may be a possibility they can fall through the ice.
Now, I guess in this case of this lake in Central Park, it's not that deep, but, you can fall in. It's really cold. You don't know what's going to happen.
I do cold plunges, but we ain't doing this one.
Yeah, I'm not trying to have a Titanic moment.
Yeah, so there was somebody who was in the park yesterday. Park rangers say if you see someone fall through the ice, don't try to be a hero. Call 911 because they've got the special equipment to safely conduct a rescue, and of course you don't. New York City remembering firefighters who lost their lives from injuries battling fires in Brooklyn and the Bronx 2 decades ago. City Fire Commissioner Robert Tucker joining families and friends at a firehouse in the Bronx to mark the 20th anniversary of what was known as Black Sunday.
How do we get through this? I look to all of you, gathered here 20 years later. And I know we do that by staying together.
6 firefighters were forced to jump from a 4th-floor window after being trapped by a fire in an illegally converted Bronx apartment. Lieutenant Curtis Mayron and Lieutenant John Bello died that day from their injuries, and Lieutenant Joseph DiBernardo died from his injuries years later. A 4th firefighter, Richard Scalfani, also died battling a blaze that day in East New York. Fire Commissioner Tucker spoke to family members of the firefighters who lost those lives.
Each of these fallen members were doing a job they loved in a department they loved and that we love. In this, there is legacy.
5:55. The annual boat show underway at the Javits Center.
We have pontoons and personal watercraft and aluminum boats all the way up to center console sport fishers and yachts. So if you're shopping for a boat, it's one of the best places to come out, see, board, compare.
Yeah, so I guess people do end up buying boats at these things, but it's also just kind of cool to see what people are sailing around in.
It's a great family activity. We have a very cool kids build a boat station and a game called the Fishing Frenzy. There's all kinds of cool games for the kids, plus the Discover Boating Beach Club.
Yeah, happening at the Javits Center. The search is on for a dog that was stolen from a front yard in Newark. So police have released surveillance video that shows a woman who they know who she is, actually, but they can't find her. She picks this 5-month-old Shih Tzu dog up and walks away. It's one of these dogs where the family lets the dog run around in the front yard. It's a gated front yard, and everybody in the neighborhood knows the dog, and now the dog is gone, and this woman is asking for some sort of ransom to give the dog back.
Her name is Riley St. Wuppy, and I just call her Wups for short. We like that she goes out and, greets people at the gate, and she's very, very sweet.
Yes, so the dog goes missing. They don't know what's up. So this poor woman, Sylvia Thomas, who you just heard there, she gets a text message saying that someone's holding her dog for ransom.
She argues with me about, what I'm doing to her character by trying to find my lost dog. I don't know any other way to look for a dog that I know is in the possession of another human being. She then texts me and says, oh, by the way, you're not getting your dog back.
Yes, so we don't know exactly what the ransom is. Police haven't told us. They're just looking for this woman. Again, they know who she is. They got video of her, but they have been unable to find her. So poor Sylvia doesn't know what's happened to her dog.
I had no animosity towards the individual even to this moment.
Really? How's that possible?
You know, in truth, my entire goal was only to get my pet back. You know, I'm sure she's a bit anxious about being in a new place, just waiting and hoping and praying is all I have at this point.
Yeah, so police say if you know this woman, her name is Hamifa Richardson. They say that's the woman who stole the dog. They say turn her in so then they can get the dog back.